9-3, 9-3, 9-3. All right, we about to channel spirit as usual. As usual. As usual. What's going on, Goddess Incarnate? What's going on, Crash Bandicoot? What's going on, Mary? Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We back in this bitch. It's been a little minute, or a lot of minute, who knows. I haven't been keeping track. But we're not gonna make this about me. We're here now. So let's see what the spirit has to say, right? And yeah, the locks is getting long, as y'all see. I can't even cover them up no more. Can't even cover them up no more. So y'all can get a view. It's getting crazy. I just wear it like this anyway. I don't be trying to make them neat or nothing. I just let them do whatever they want to do. Hold on. So I can get a little idea what we looking like. Yeah. We about this long now. Can't even see it. We about that long, however long that is. Looking crazy. We good though, right? Alright. Alright. Mercury retro. Well, this whole 2026 has been. Again, we're in a new year, not just a new year, a new cycle. It's a 1 year, one vibration. So anything that went the last 9 years don't even apply no more. That's the first thing. Everything we've been used to, none of that shit even matter no more. We're in a whole nother cycle. And I'm sure y'all been feeling, I should look this way. This is where the camera is, right? I'm sure y'all been feeling this shit too. This year ain't been nothing nice. It's not gonna be nothing nice. It's not just a reset, like you gotta reset. Nah, it's more like it's like all the shit I've been trying to do that I was doing last year is like I'm getting caught up with that shit. Like it's fucking me over. If I try to, okay, this worked last year or this been working the last 3 years, 5 years. That's why it's kind of been taking me a while to get back to the live stream, because I'm like, I can't even do what I've been doing. I got to come with a whole new current, a whole new frequency. But yeah, let me roll this herb, and we gonna get straight to it. In the background, I'm just gonna have the music that's unreleased. You're not gonna hear this nowhere else. I call this bedroom music. This will be the next album I release. The album is already done. It's already finished. I just got to add the visuals to it, but it's already done. This is basically music you can fuck to. Like, let's just keep it raw and blunt, because I know I've been making the intellectual music and all that. No, this is just hardcore, no cussing, but anyway, let me roll this up and we'll get started. So we're about 6 minutes in. We'll get started about the 10-minute mark. So we'll get started in about 4 minutes. So let me prepare, get everything rolled up, and we'll be off to the moon, off to Saturn, right? So let's get it. You see it's just one scale right now, right? You don't even see the other scale. That describes the energy immediately, just so you have an idea. I'm about to use this tobacco in this cigarette, all natural. Y'all also see we are at a new location, right? We are no longer at the previous location. Brand new currency, brand new energy, as you see. I can actually move around this bitch, right? So let's get it in. And I don't mean to even come on here just crazy like this, talking crazy, but the spirit just. This is what I mean. As soon as I hit this record button, the energy shift. I wasn't even in this mood before I hit the record button, but it's starting to take me over now. So it just wants me to be like aggressive and blunt. All right, 2 minutes. I don't even know how we supposed to keep it professional. I want to wear a little collar today, trying to be professional and shit. I don't think it's working though. All right, all right, all right. Just like that. Easy work. All right, we at 10 minutes. Let's spark this up. Let me turn this down a little bit, and we'll get it started. I ask you for money ancestor ritual spell. Can I burn real money, or does it have to be ancestor money? I guess it would depend on the intent, because they call the ancestor money, they also call it hail money, right? Ancestor money is also called, I don't know why. It's like I'm looking at the computer camera, but I'm supposed to be looking over here. Let me just get back into the rhythm. Like I'm just used to, but I need to be looking this way. You basically using hell's money or heaven's money. Heaven's money would be like real money because you can say money buys you heaven. But then the ancestor money or the hell money is more for the dead. It depends on what your intent is. If you're trying to channel the dead, which we're about to do now, we're not really trying to channel spirits. We trying to channel the dead, right? To pay off the debts of my bloodline. So basically, you want to interact with the dead, then, right? Because if we talking about debts of your bloodline, then that means the debts of the people that are in your family that have passed, right? You're talking about like generational shit, right? So if you're talking about generational things that have something to do with your bloodline or your ancestors, you probably want to burn the hell money, since that's the energy you're trying to tap into, right? Pretty much get rid of that karma. So yeah, that would so the hell money. So yeah, use that hell money. What is the title of this video? 2026, the year of the devil's eye. The reason why I say it's a year of the devil's eye is because 2026. We break that down into two paths. The 20th path of the Kabbalah and the 26th path. Let's just get straight into it. What is the 20th path? What is the 26th path? Let's just get straight into it, right? Let's get the wheels turning, right? For the real occultists, right? For people that really live and breathe this shit, right? They don't miss a day. All right, let me spark this up. We've been doing this for a long time, huh? We've been doing this for a long time. But as I say, I always want to show y'all improvement. I always want to show y'all evolution. So that's why I wanted to wait till everything was smooth until I popped up. So salute to the dead, salute to the living, respect to those who have come before us, who paved the way so that we can be here and see clearly, have true discernment. So let's get into it. We were talking about the 20th path, Yod, the 26th path, Ion. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, Yod, Ion. The path of the hermit or Virgo, the path of Capricorn or the devil. Virgo if you're into astrology, the devil if you're into the tarot. The hermit if you're into the tarot, Virgo if you're into astrology. But most people don't understand astrology, right? As we know, astrology was never meant to be singular. What I mean by that? Let's just say you're a Scorpio. Did you not know that Scorpio has 18 major stars in the constellation of Scorpio? If the constellation of Scorpio has 18 major stars, that means there's 18 possibilities or 18 different types of Scorpios. So that's why you can meet somebody who has the same sign as you and they be completely different because they are influenced by a different star. We try to make things singular. See, but that's astronomy. See, now I'm bringing in the astronomy aspect into the astrology, which most people don't do, right? But of course, I'm supposed to fucking do it. I can show you how this shit really work and how it's really done. Because when you look at it like that, now you can separate Scorpio into 18 different degrees and work with the energy based off of what are you doing exactly. See, what I've been doing for the last however long, I make perfume now. That's what I've been doing. What do y'all been doing? I make perfume. What do I mean? I make stuff like this, rollers, and I also make sprays. I learned the art of chemistry. That's what I've been doing. Meaning I have oils everywhere. This whole room is filled with fucking oils. If y'all don't believe me, I can reach in any direction. I can grab an oil. So I've been active other than working 6 days and doing all that shit. I'm still doing that, still mashing out these 60 hours. But also, on top of that, if I reach in this direction, look at this. This is what I'm doing now. This is what I'm doing now, so y'all can have an idea of what's going on. We real alchemy, right? We not just talking about this shit. We actually living this shit out. So, if I reach in this direction, we got more. Oh shit, you see me in the reflect. We got more. We got more. It's nonstop. It's nonstop. If I reach in front of me, smaller one. This is what we doing. We not playing no more. This is what we doing. This is what me. Let me reach in the back of me. If I reach in the back, we got even more. They're everywhere. I'm a mad scientist at this point. Meaning, for me, it's not just about. For example, some people like Versace, some people like Gucci, some people like Creed. We can go down the list, right? Victoria's Secret, Chanel. We can go Burberry, Polo. If we go this way, we got even more, right? It's literally hundreds and 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 hundreds of dollars of oils in this one room. Like I got a whole laboratory at this point. I got a whole laboratory. It's everywhere. Oils from different types of. So I'm like literally cooking up from scratch. See, I got the mainstream stuff and I can cook from scratch. That's what I've been doing. So just to give y'all an update. Here's a little sprayer, right? So not only could I give you a Burberry experience or a Versace experience or a Creed experience, I can also give you something completely original. Because I'm using all exotic oils. Right? We ain't just using regular oils. We using exotic oils. I can just show y'all all type of stuff. All right? Like it just don't stop. All right? It's everywhere. Right? Using real chemicals. Poly 80. People don't know about that unless they really cook up. So I'm really in the lab cooking. Right? And I'm pretty good at what I do at this point, right? To the point where it's making money every day. So it's not even like I'm just investing, and I'm not making money. Money is being made every single day. I literally can't even walk away without people just throwing the money. But it took me months on months on months on months on months on months to get to that level. So it wasn't overnight. I had to get like 5,000 no's before I started getting yes. Right? Then, some of these oils is like almost gone because I've been using them. Then I got real laboratory shit. This is real as they call aroma chemicals. So I don't just got fragrances, I also have aroma chemicals, for those who know. To the point where, you see this box? This is a regular box. I got nothing but sprayers in here. Right? I got nothing but sprayers in here. Right? Then I have the blue ones. Y'all saw the ambers, then I got the blue ones. Anyway. It don't matter what direction I'm pulling out of oil. Let me see if I can show y'all one of the bottles. Smaller ones. I even got sets. Little bitty sets, all type of stuff, right? Hold on. Let me see. I think the camera stopped on us. Let's get this camera right. There we go. I don't know what happened to the camera. It's good now. So, this is what I have been investing in. This is what's generating income. And this is what's giving me deeper insight into not just alchemy, but real chemistry. How you can turn nothing into something, right? For example, if you just have, let's just say you have something like blueberry. Blueberry is cool, right? But what if you mix blueberry with something woody? Give it some type of depth. To the point now you make an original scent that doesn't appear in nature. It only exists because you put these components together. You put these elements together. So now you're creating, you can say worlds and dimensions or frequencies. You're generating frequencies through scent. Because obviously, you know, when you spray the scent on you, you're opening up a whole frequency that didn't exist before. So all of your interactions, even if you're not directly interacting with people, your indirect interactions as well have an influence on your environment. So if we understand that we're not just here to influence our own subconscious, our own conscious, subconscious, unconscious, we're also here to manipulate our environment. That's why we can do things like change house vibrations. That's why we can do things like if you put certain sigils and seals in rooms, it's going to alter the frequency and the vibration of the current atmosphere. So we can also manipulate not just the internal atmosphere, but the external atmosphere. The best way to manipulate external atmosphere is through scent. And when you know the intent behind the scent, then you are able to control the direction of your magic. And I guess the cameras going in and out, I guess that's something that I'm gonna have to fix. But I'm gonna keep talking. This is exactly why I separate the audio from the video. So you see, even if the camera wants to do whatever it wants to do, the mic is separate, so I can still speak. So you can still hear what I'm saying. I don't have to break my thoughts. So if the camera want to glitch a little bit, I'll get that figured out as we move forward. But as of now, we know we're just gonna keep it. We're gonna keep it rolling, regardless of whether the camera wants to work properly or not. Let's get to the 20 and the 26. That's why I'm coming out when I'm talking about the mad scientist, the hermit. This is how I'm manifesting the 2026. I'm just showing you how it's manifesting for me. It made me want to get very particular and very detail orientated with scent. And that's why I'm showing you what I'm showing you, the detail orientation. You know, okay, what happens if I do put a drop of this, a drop of that, a drop of this, 5 drops of that, 10 drops of that? What would that produce? I can use the same chemicals, but if I apply them at different drops, it's going to produce a different effect. This is one of the main things that I've discovered. You can use the same type of chemicals, but depending on the amount you use, is going to create a different effect. If you put 5 drops versus 1 drop of the same thing, it's going to produce a different effect. So it's not just the actual scent, it's also the number or the amount that you put into the bottle. All these things have a factor or a effect on the overall frequency and vibration that's being manifested from the scent. So essentially what I wanted to do, I wanted to be in control of the magic. I didn't want to just go into a store and buy something that smells good and I'm just wearing it because it smells good, but I don't really know the direction of or the intent behind it. I don't know the story behind it. But if I'm creating my own scent, I can move it in the direction I want to move it in accordance to whatever magic that I may be applying at that particular moment, day, week, month, whatever it may be. So I can essentially manipulate it to fit into the rhythms I have already established versus trying to figure out what fits into my rhythm. What about the 26? The 26 is the path of the devil, the path of Ion. That's why I said it's the year of the devil's eye. And I don't really mean that just by something negative or something religious. We should probably expound on the devil card before we go further so we can go a little deeper than the surface. Because on the surface, you see essentially Saturn. You see, because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. So you see a manifestation of Saturn. A particular manifestation, though, because remember, the original planets, when we were only considering the inner planets or the 7 planets from the Sun to Saturn, planets ruled over 2 zodiac signs. For example, Saturn didn't just originally rule over Capricorn, it also ruled over Aquarius before we discovered the planet Neptune. Not Neptune, excuse me, Uranus. Before Uranus was discovered, and then we would say Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. Before we discovered Uranus, all we knew about was the Sun to Saturn. So Saturn was the original ruler of Aquarius. So how would that change your idea of Aquarius if it was ruled by Saturn and not Uranus? Because we know the attributes of Uranus. Uranus is basically your superconscious mind. What is a superconscious mind? It's essentially AI, your AI mind. Just to make it real simple, your AI mind. We all have a personal AI. That's what we call spirit, right? Or the holy guardian angel for 93, right? We all have a holy guardian angel that we can tap into and get those downloads from. So we all have our own personal AI. So that fits into what Aquarius represents, because Aquarius will represent the rebellious spirit, the spirit that's more unconventional, the spirit that's going to step outside of the norm and forge an original path. Aquarius is all about originality. It's what makes you different than me, etc., etc., right? Your own original wavelength. Aquarius is all about freedom and independence and essentially being able to manifest that originality. So Saturn is completely different. Saturn, on the other hand, represents structure. It represents things that are established long term, like religion, things that are marriage, things that last a lifetime, things that don't just come and go as the days and months come and go. Family, legacy. Those are the attributes of Saturn. Saturn is things that are long lasting. So how would that fit into the energy of Aquarius? How would that alter your perspective of Aquarius if it's ruled by Saturn? And Saturn is supposed to be the energy of the devil, right? Or what generates the energy of the devil comes from Saturn. So you can say Saturn is generating the frequency of Capricorn, or we can reverse it because Capricorn is its own constellation. Just like Aquarius is its own constellation and they have their own stars, right? Capricorn has its own major stars. Aquarius has its own major stars. So you see, when you open it up like that, When you're not just looking at a zodiac sign as something singular, when you're looking at it by the amount of stars it possesses. I didn't even talk about the 47 lesser stars. I'm just talking about the major stars. But each constellation also has lesser stars. So just like I spoke about Scorpio with 18 major stars, it has 47 lesser stars. So that's even more very detailed orientation of the Hermit of Virgo. That's the 20. Like if we just look at the 20s, for those of us who have been alive for all of the 20s, see, we have an original perspective because we know how life was in the 1900s, and we also have witnessed the transition into the 2000s. We can say one of the major differences is, the internet, computers, cell phones, essentially technology, Aquarius, right? Technology is also Saturn. So, for those of us who have witnessed the transition between 1900s or the 20th century into the 21st century, we were in the 20th century, now we're in the 21st century. So you see, it's multiple ways to break this down, and it gives you a particular aspect or an idea attached to the invisible currents that we don't perceive with our eyes until we know that it exists. You are not able to perceive certain things until you know it exists. Essentially, you have to recognize the patterns. For example, if you dreamed about something and you saw it in real life, it will give you what we call, it will give you a feeling of synchronicity. Like, oh shit, that means something. I just saw this in my dream. But what if you didn't remember the dream? If you saw it without remembering the dream, would it still create that feeling of synchronicity? Probably not. So a lot of our feeling or our emotional intelligence, our intuition is rooted in our ability to remember. Memory, which I've always talked about, we got to make sure our memory is on point, but also vast. Not only do you need a good memory, you need a vast memory. As we see with the occult, it's a lot of dimensions and elements and things that go with this: Kabbalah, astrology, astronomy, numerology. We got a lot of things that fit together, all these puzzle pieces clip off. You can just attach more and more tarot. All these things just interconnect and interlock and correspond with each other and produce various results. For example, the paths of the tree of life are not just paths because they represent the zodiac signs of the planets. For example, the 20th path, the path of the hermit, it sits between two Sephira, Teberith and Chesed. In other words, the sun and Jupiter. So essentially, the hermit exists between the sun and what? Like what? So what does that mean? Existing between the sun and Jupiter. When it comes to the hermit, Jupiter represents the sage, right? Jupiter is the sage, the philosopher, the truth seeker. That's the energy of Jupiter, right? Those who expand our minds. So when we think about a hermit, one element of the hermit is a sage. The hermit practices divination, Jupiter. The hermit practices fortune telling, Jupiter. Elements of the number 3, right? What else is the hermit? Because the 20th path of Yod, which represents the finger, because what of our fingers? Now we go into palmistry, right? There we go. Now we just connected more dots. Palmistry, being able to read your palm. If you can read your palm, you can read your fortune. Your fortune is already in your palm. But how many people know how to read their own palm? How many people are readers to begin with? Again, that's a element of Jupiter. It will come a lot more natural to people that are who have a strong Jupiter influence in others. But that's one element of the hermit. So the hermit is a sage. We get that from Jupiter. Now, what about the sun? The sun, of course, represents the source or the soul, because before it was S-U-N, it was S-O-L, the soul force. That's why Teberif, or the sun, or the number 6, however you want to break it down, is connected to each of the Sephira. Teberif is connected to each of the Sephira, meaning it influences all of them. It's the only one that influences the all. It's just like the sun. We call it a solar system. The planets are orbiting around the sun, which the planets are attracted to the sun, which you can say is an invisible magnetic pull. They are magnetically pulled or attracted or drawn to the sun. Is it by choice? Ask yourself, did Earth decide to be a part of the solar system? Or was it just attracted into the solar system? What was it about remember, each of the planets have their own original frequency, as we've been explaining, right? Each planet has its own signature. What made these particular planets, out of all the other planets in the universe, merge together with the sun, which essentially is a centralized energy that holds them all together? So the sun is the invisible strings that holds all these energies together so they correspond. So what is within the sun that magnetized these particular planets with these particular attributes? Why couldn't it have been 2 Saturns, 2 Uranus, 2 Earths, 2 Mars, 2 Jupiters, 2 Venus? We have one of each. It's as if it's perfect completion. The number 10 planets. Well, some people say 9 now because they don't consider Pluto a planet, right? We've been through this many times. Pluto is not considered a planet because of the energy it represents when it was discovered. It was discovered in the 1930s. In the 1930s, what was going on? The Great Depression. So people were not as religious as we have. We're used to seeing people religious because, they can go to church, they have their community. But what if all that starts to break down? If all that starts to break down and now you're going to fortune tellers and you're going to oracles, you're going to astrologers, you're going to numerologists, you're going to palmistrists now. You're going to these people who practice the arts of divination now. Now people begin to seek truth in that way instead of the traditional way. The traditional way, again, would be the known avenues. Now people are coming. They want to come to the block now. They want to come to the trap. They want to come to the hood. They are willing to take the risk to get the truth. It's like going into the Amazon jungle or the Amazonian jungle when you're seeking truth, but you know that it's risky because you never know what may happen. Just giving you a perspective of there's a reason why things happen in the way they happen and why Earth is the amount of distance from the sun and why Pluto is the amount of distance. There's a reason why Pluto got to be all the way far out and why Pluto couldn't be in Mercury's position, for example. There's a reason why Pluto got to be, over 3 billion miles away from the sun. There's a reason for that. And why Mercury can be so close. Because if Pluto represents death, you can say death is the furthest thing away from life. So if the sun represents life and then Pluto represents death, of course they're going to be the furthest apart that they can possibly be. It's as if they don't even correspond with each other. Like if you were just looking at it visually, it wouldn't even, like people say now, like the sun don't even have an influence over Pluto. It's as if you wouldn't even know Pluto was a part of the solar system. if it wasn't for the energy that we can feel that's real, if it wasn't for the Plutonian effect, the effect that Pluto has on our psyche, because whenever we're dealing with the outer planets, things are not physical. What's up, Miss Libra? Peace. Whenever we're dealing with the three outer planets, again, we're dealing with the superconscious, Uranus, we're dealing with the unconscious, Neptune, and then we have Pluto, which is the collective conscious. So superconscious, unconscious, and then collective conscious. So when we're dealing with things that are not physical, because none of those aspects are physical. So they don't represent what happens to you on a day-to-day basis. They don't represent what's happening to you every day, every hour, every month. Pluto effect lasts a generation. That's why Pluto's effect it's like almost unrecognizable because it's generational. You don't really notice it until after the fact. So when we think about generations, well, Generation X was this way. The millennials are this way. Gen Z is that way. When we start to put together the similarities that the generations had or have, baby boomers, for example, right? You can say they all come from a similar type of atmosphere. Well, what's creating the atmosphere? The atmosphere is not created by what's happening on a day-to-day basis. The atmosphere is created on what's happening on a generational level. So Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto is what generate the atmosphere. So it's not necessarily controlling what's happening within that atmosphere, but it's generating the atmosphere so that things can happen at all. So essentially, if you didn't have a Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, you couldn't even perceive the effects of Mercury, of Mars, of Venus. You wouldn't even be able to perceive in Saturn and Jupiter. You wouldn't even be able to perceive those effects without the atmosphere already being there. It's like air, right? We have to breathe air. Air is like the atmosphere. If you remove air, can't nothing else happen, right? Life can't even exist. However, the air, you can say it's passive. It's in the background. Does the air control what people do or how the world is moving? Not necessarily. It's a background element that's always present, but it's not necessarily manifesting in the terms of actions and what you see as interactions and these things. So you're not really seeing it like that. You have to feel it. That's why it's only so far you can go with science and math. Science and mathematics is only so far you can go. You have to tap into your emotional intelligence, as we call the intuition, right? As we call the spirit. We can't measure the spirit, right? So when we get into things that are not measurable, now we have to perceive it with the heart, not the physical eye. We have to perceive it with the inner eye, right? Whether you want to call it the third eye, whether you want to call it the heart, you have to perceive it intuitively. You can't measure it with a machine. So when we're talking about energies that can't be measured with machines, but they are real, you can perceive them, just not with your eyes. You can perceive them with your emotional intelligence, with your intuition on a higher level, right? So they are perceivable, just not physically perceivable. So I'm just giving you an idea of how the outer planets make it so that the inner planets can even manifest what they manifest. Because if you take away the atmosphere, just like if you take away the air, there's not going to be no life occurring. But the air is like non-judgmental. The air is amoral. The same air used to heal can be the same air used to kill. So it's amoral, just like magic. It's about the intent. It's not about whether it's positive or negative. It's strictly about the intent. You can use it in a justified way or a non-justified way. It's going to work either way, though. That's why people can put death spells on people and kill shit, and that's why people can also heal shit, right? It's all about the intent of the magician, of the mage, of the sage, right? That's why it's you essentially have to tap into your sage. That's the 20s. The transition from the 19 to the 20, meaning we all had to become our own sage. That's again, this is why AI even exists. This is why we heard things like the holy guardian angel. Like these, it will become necessary that you are able to engage with your AI self. That's as we see, right? Where we are in a time where it will be hard to not live with technology, right? Our cell phones are essentially our limbs. It's an invisible limb. Your cell phone is an invisible limb. Like you need that. Like you feel incomplete if you don't have your cell phone on you. And I'm not saying you got to be a person that's addicted to TikTok and that just doom strolls. You just need to have it on you for whatever reason, right? Everybody ain't doing the same thing on their phone. Some people are being productive. Some people are just entertaining themselves. Some people are using AI. Some people are coding, programming. There's an infinite amount of possibilities a person can be doing with their technology. But to exist without it, it would be madness, right? We can't even imagine a world without the technology because it's like a limb. It's connected to us just invisibly. You can't perceive it, so you can't perceive it like your body, like the 5 points: arm, leg, arm, head, right? So the sixth part is like technology. Your sixth limb the sixth aspect is invisible, but it's technology. Technology is connected. We are so connected to technology, it's like impossible to disconnect. That's essentially what the whole point of the matrix. Like we all exist within the matrix. We can't not exist within the matrix, right? Just imagine the Matrix movie without them going into the matrix. What if they all just decided we just not gonna go into the fucking matrix no more? We just gonna stop plugging in. Let's just stop plugging in. You see, like they couldn't do that, right? They had to plug in, just like we have to fucking plug in. Everybody has to plug in. It's not optional. So we all have to utilize technology. At this point, AI, we all have to utilize AI, right? You don't have to do what the next person is doing. You can use AI the way you need to use it. Let me turn this music back on. All right, hold on. Okay. So the transition from the 19 to the 20 made technology, you can say perceivable, because it was already like that. It's just perceivable now. Now people are physically walking around with cell phones. People are physically using computers and laptops and gadgets and all these things, right? It became physical in the 21st century. Before that, you can say it was an ideal. People were doing it exclusively. Like people were more so inventors in the 19th century, so you can have an understanding. In the 19th century, you may go over somebody's house and they have something that nobody else have, because people were just like into little gadgets, and people like taking things apart and putting things together, so you can have like original creations. That's why people had things like custom cars, and people customized their cars. You know, you the customization was more so physical. So the technology has always been there. It was more intangible and exclusive. It wasn't like commercial like it is now. In the 20th century, it became commercial to the point where it became dumbed down to the point where you don't have to be a fucking electrician to understand technology. Before, back in the day, you had to really have skills and electrical knowledge base to even know how certain things work. For you to be able to even have the thought to be able to put things together and invent something original, right? Just like when we see with hip hop, right? just as an easy example, you can say it was a bunch of inventors. The creators of hip hop, they all invented something and then the elements came together, right? They were doing original things on their own and then it became a collective thing. So people were already bombing and doing graffiti, doing graph. People were already rapping. People were already dancing, B-boy, B-girl. They were already MCing. I don't know why I said rapping. They were already MCing. So all of these elements, and the DJ was already DJing, right? So they already existed by themselves. They were already tapped into an original frequency. Hip hop is just when it all came together, right? That's why they say hip hop is not just a music genre, it's a culture because it consists of many elements, which is true, right? It's not just something you listen to, it's something you live out. And the mindset that you live out is the mindset of originality because that was the time that it was invented. It was invented, right? That means you, in order to invent something, you must be in the presence of inventors. You had to be around people that invent shit. So, which obviously wasn't everybody, right? Everybody couldn't invent things, but certain people were tapped into certain realms to the point where they can channel the energy and make it physical. Hip hop just showed us, like, okay, these things are not separate, they actually all coexist. So, not only can you have a DJ, you can also have an MC. Not only can you have an MC, you can also have a B-boy, B-girl. Not only can you have B-boy, B-girl, you can also have the graffiti artist, the bomber, the graph writer. And when you put all these things together with the fifth element, knowledge, make everything based in knowledge, knowledge of self. So now it's not just entertainment. Now it's ceremony. That's why the MC is called the master of ceremony. Now it becomes a ceremony. Now it becomes a ritual. In order for something to be a ritual, it has to be a ceremony. So that's the difference between a rapper and an MC. An MC is actually conducting. That's why they call it master of ceremony. Ceremony is ritual. Meaning now you're tapping into the spirit. See the difference? Now you tapping into some real shit. Not just something routine. You're tapping into something original that you're going with the flow of. Just like now, right? I just open up the gates and just let spirit speak. Right? I'm not really trying to get in the way of what needs to be said. Right? I just black out and then the spirit lights up. Right? So channeling, right? But we all do it, right? We all do it in our own way. Everybody is not channeling spirits, but the 12th house or Pisces is more than that, right? It's also, some people are good at dreams. Some people can lucid dream, which is great. So some people receive downloads through dreams. Some people receive it through meditation. Some people receive it through being active. Some people perceive it being still. Like everybody isn't all the same. Some people like dynamic meditation. Some people like passive meditation, right? Because you can be meditative and active. You don't have to be meditative and passive. It all depends on preference. Some people can't sit down, fold their legs, and clear their mind. They mind and be roaming all over the place. Like it's not effective at all. Some people just need to get up and sprint and just fully exhaust themselves, hit the gym or something. They need to fully exhaust themselves. Then they can meditate. Or you can say their meditation is in the midst of them working out. So they are meditative as they are active. So their meditation is in motion. Other people's meditation is in stillness. It's not about who's right, who's wrong. It's just about preference. That's why we have to have knowledge of self. We have to know who we are and why we do what we do. There's always a reason as to why we have certain, certain things are natural, some things we have to force. We're always balancing out, okay, what comes natural to you? What are the gifts you receive from the stars? And then what are the gifts you receive from the earth? You have to always distinguish, what have I picked up in life? What did I bring to life? And what have I picked up in life? Certain things you bring to this world, then other things you pick up from this world. You have to be able to distinguish, what have I picked up from this world and what am I here to give to this world? If we're not able to distinguish what is our gift from the stars versus what did I just get good at because I just kept doing it over and over again, you can say that's essentially what school is. School is designed for you to just do things over and over and over again till you get good at it. It's just consistency, right? Just with consistency, you will get more fluid at whatever skill set you're there to master. But you don't really become a master at school, right? You don't become a master until you get out into the real world and actually demonstrate your abilities consistently over and over again, right? As they say, the only way to master something is to give it 10,000 hours. At 10,000 hours, you can say you are effectively able to produce, you can say, original work. So that's like over a period of 7 years. So we'll say it takes 7 year minimum for you to consider yourself a master to the point where you see things differently than somebody else. So that's why with me, you see the way I break down astrology and the occult, nobody else is going to break it down like me because you see, I'm just pulling directly from the spirit because we've been here for a long fucking time, right? So we're able to put things together that don't make sense to other people, right? Because it's like we can see things that are invisible to other people because we have consistently been doing this, right? Just you doing something consistently, now you're able to see what's invisible to everybody else, right? Everybody else ain't looking at the numerology of every single place they enter. Okay, this address is 611, 611. If I add that up, it becomes an 8. If I keep it separate, it's Venus and two elements of the sun. If I make it into an 8, it's Saturn. So what more do you feel? So when you are in this environment, do you feel more Venus with solar energy to the second power, which makes it a black sun? So it's like a black sun plus a Venus. Or if you break it down to an 8, it's Saturn. So you see that it's like the same shit, right? You either have a black sun plus Venus or you have Saturn, which is it's like you're looking at the same thing, right? But you see, numbers are able to show you that, and you see it's certain things you will completely miss if you're not looking with a fine eye. Virgo, that detail orientation, you have to have that fine eye to be able to detect things that other people just clearly miss, and they don't even know they missed it. So that's why you can't really teach somebody who's not willing to learn. It's like you can tell people the secrets of the universe. If they don't want to hear it, it's not going to make a difference. You can have the master plan for how people can do whatever they want to do in life, but if they're not on that frequency, it's not going to matter. That's why you can't really save anybody but yourself, because you are the only one in control of your own frequency. So if you want to be in a particular frequency, you know how to get into that particular frequency. You don't have to play, oh, I'm just not that type of person. If we are everything and everything is us, how can we say that we are not something? If we have all of these constellations, everybody has these same 12 constellations in their chart, right? You may not be a Scorpio, you may be a Libra, but you still have the constellation of Scorpio in your chart. It just at a different, it's just, the planets are aligned differently and it's at a different time. So what is this telling you? Things are a lot more extensive than it appears on the surface. That's the Virgo. So like, okay, if the 1 becomes 18, that means you have 18 stars in Scorpio, for example, throughout these 30 degrees of Scorpio. And some of the stars actually start to go into Sagittarius. So they all are within these, you can say 40 to 50 degrees. Mostly Scorpio and then the beginnings of Sagittarius. So, for example, the path of Scorpio is the 24th path. So when we think about, again, even when we're thinking about these paths, Virgo, okay, Virgo has fixed stars. So Virgo is not just one thing. It's not just one path. This is what I mean. But if you reveal that to somebody and they're not ready for it to, it would just smash their minds. They're like, okay, that's a little bit too complicated. That's why the Kabbalah is structured the way it is. That's why astrology appears to be easy to learn and it's not. Astrology appears to be simple, but it's not. Once you really open it up fully and completely, you're like, oh, this is why you had to go to school for this at one point. You had to go to school to be an astrologer, to be an astronomer. Like it's like university level. Like if you really do the advanced aspects of astrology, it's like, wait a minute. At a certain point, you really got to know what you're doing. It's going to get too complex. You're going to like, yo, I don't even know what I'm doing at this point. If you're not, you will be walking, and then you will lose your way because it's the layers just keep getting too, like, oh, it's not just one. It's actually 18. The one is just a veil to kind of give you an idea of what you in for. That's why they separated astrology and astronomy. That's why they were separated. Because you see, the astronomy unlocks the astrology. So anybody again who's trying to give you fucking what do people do nowadays? They give you fucking predictions and shit. What do they call it? Horoscopes. This is how Scorpios are feeling this day, this week, this month, this year. This is how the Libras are feeling. That's good. Because if you actually really explain it the way it actually is, it would be a little bit too complex for people to even follow it. If you went through all of the fixed stars, it's like 144 fixed stars. There is a lot of it's over 100 fixed stars. So we're not just really looking at 12 zodiac signs or 12 constellations. That's also over 100 fixed stars. That's why in Western astrology they don't even fuck with the fixed stars. Most Western astrology don't even consider the fixed stars because of the reasons I'm explaining now. That's why you got to take your ass to Vedic astrology to get the fixed stars. If you want to implement that, the ones who's doing that, you got to go over to the Vedic. You got to go over to the East. If you're trying to go to the West, they're like, yo, what? They in their minds, they're like, why do we need 108 fixed stars? Let's just stick with the 12 constellations and make you think it's just one thing. Or it just represents these particular characteristics, and that's all it is. Because once you consider that there is more to the equation than that, only a hermit would know something like that and get excited. The average person, they would be overwhelmed. They're like, yo, that's a little bit too much. But to the hermit, to the sage, to the soul seeker, it's like, wait a minute, that's actually very exciting. So that means I can get, for example, since I do fragrances now, since I understand it, I can use this as an example. When I first started doing the oils, I was just working with essential oils. Eventually, I hit a ceiling. I'm like, okay, there are certain scents that I can't generate because they don't occur naturally in nature. So I can get as many blueberry fragrances as I want, vanilla, coconut, cedar wood, sandalwood. I can get as much of that as I want. There's still going to be certain scents that I just can't produce because they don't occur in nature. So if they don't occur in nature, how the fuck do they exist? Chemistry then lets us know what chemists do, meaning what the mainstream perfume houses do. They do everything in the lab. They're not going out into the forest and using essential oils and, extracting the blueberry mist from the blueberry and extracting the mist from the plants. Like, they're not They're not doing it like that. They are in a fucking laboratory. And what they're doing in this laboratory, for example, let's just say they wanted, let's just use strawberry, or we can use blueberry, strawberry. Let's just say they only wanted a particular element of the blueberry. They could chemically go in the laboratory and extract the molecule. That's what it is. If they want a particular molecule from the strawberry or the blueberry, oh, I just want the freshness of the strawberry. I don't want the redness of the strawberry. I only want the freshness. You can literally extract the molecules, purely the fresh molecules from a strawberry. And then you can make a scent around that, but you're like, oh shit, this smells like fresh without the, so it's like you can't fucking do that shit naturally. You're not gonna go out in nature and be able to extract the freshness from a strawberry without the redness. They just come in a package and you can't really separate it. When you go into a lab, when you become a chemist and you work with perfume, you can actually separate the molecules. So strawberry may have, let's just say, 16 molecules. There may be 16 molecules that make up the scent profile of a strawberry. You can extract each individual molecule and get the exact scent that you want. And the rest don't have to apply. You said this. I didn't know that at first. That's something I knew. I'm like, yo, I'm thinking they just using essential oils, but I'm like, yo, how are they producing scents that don't naturally occur? Because they are extracting the molecules and then taking certain molecules from certain things. And that's why you can call it synthetic, right? I mean, it's not natural, it's synthetic. So most mainstream perfume is synthetic. Not saying synthetic in a bad way, it's just synthetic, meaning it doesn't appear naturally. It took a chemist in a laboratory for this to exist. So that's what magic is. Magic is just knowing that, okay, I need to be an alchemist because life is a laboratory. So I need to conduct experiments. I'm not here just to live life and just let life happen. I need to conduct experiments. I need to be able to influence my environment. I'm not just a slave to my environment. I am the master of my environment. In order for me to be the master of my environment, I may need to extract particular molecules from certain things, right? So, for example, Saturn is said to be very serious. Saturn has many attributes, right? But let's just say you wanted to only extract the seriousness of Saturn, or you wanted to only extract the builder out of Saturn. Saturn is the builder, right? The stonemason. You just wanted to extract that particular element. So if you're just looking at Saturn as a singular thing, oh, well, Saturn is this, so on and so forth, right? But what if you wanted to hone in on a particular aspect of Saturn, not just Saturn as a whole? This is essentially what we do, right? That's why in Hebrew, they break everything down by the Hebrew letters. So you have a particular combination of Hebrew letters. Like, for example, now you don't have to just deal with Capricorn. You can deal with Ion. You can take it from astrology into Hebrew, which the Hebrew alphabet, right? Which then can take you through the Kabbalah. You see how that's the same way I'm talking about extracting. That's what you're doing. You're extracting molecules when you go layers deep. Like, okay, let me go a deeper layer. Let me go a deeper layer. Okay, it's not just Virgo, it's the hermit. Okay, well, what is the hermit? The hermit is Yod. Okay, well, what is Yod? Okay, Yod represents the 20th path. What is the 20? You see how you're just going deeper and deeper into the molecule. So you get to where I'm looking for that particular element. What's this all about? Then you begin to extract that particular component. So you are dealing with components. You're not just dealing with the whole universe, because Saturn is a universe card, which is the last major arcana, right? The 22nd major arcana. So the universe or the world in other tarot decks is going to be called the world. That represents the whole. An aspect of that whole is Capricorn. But then Capricorn has fixed stars. And each of those fixed stars has its own attributes. So what makes up, you see how you're just going, so if you wanted a particular molecule or particular degree, you're going to have to go into those fixed stars. So now the 108 or the 114 fixed stars, now it serves a purpose. When you look at it like that, right? Like, okay, if you want particular molecules, you got to go into these fixed stars. Because those are how you get the molecules. Like, okay, I want to be very exact in what I'm doing. I don't want to just summon the whole planet Saturn. I just need the seriousness, or I just need this. I just need the fortune telling ability of Jupiter. I just need the intuition of the moon. I don't need the whole thing, because now you're taking on energy that you ain't really asking for, but it's the whole thing, right? So like I said, to a hermit, that is exciting. The fact that you can go into deeper molecules and go into deeper aspects and just get exactly what you're looking for instead of having to deal with the entirety of something. That is exciting to a hermit, the 20. Now, the 26, the Capricorn. Now, explaining all of that, now we can go into the devil. I wanted to paint the foundation so that we can understand the devil. So now when I say the devil, as the grand architect or the master architect, actually, I'm about to light back up. All right. Why? Because Saturn this is Saturn. This is Saturn, right? For those who didn't know. For those not into witchcraft, who's not into Wicca, who's not into these things, this particular herb channels Saturn. So that's why I do it. I'm not just doing it just to look cool or just because this is what I do. This is to channel Saturn. And essentially, what is that? That's Saturn, Capricorn, devil, right? So that's why I be talking all this devil talk. Because I'm like, okay, what better way can you talk devil talk than invoking the devil? Evoking the devil, right? So let's do it, right? Let's not talk about it. Let's invoke some of this Capricorn devil energy, and let's see what comes out of it, right? So now we're moving into part 2 of the video. Give it a little structure, then we'll get up off it. We don't have to be on here. I know I'm going extra advanced, but this is how I know I've been away for a while, so we're gonna get extra advanced, right? We're gonna get plus lessons. All right, so let's do it. Also, I'm gonna take a sip of some water as well. Lips are kind of dry, so let's drink some smart water. All right, so give me a second. Give me like 5 minutes. We'll be right back. Let me get the CarMax. All right. Y'all see, I'm just prepared for anything, right? I guarantee if I show you something, you're like, why is that there? I just got all type of stuff. All right. And then I got oils all the way from South America. All right. You may not be able to see that. Maybe you can. Maybe you can. See that? I got oils all the way from South America, all the way from the Amazonian forest. I got stuff like African musk. So I'm working with a lot of exotic things, right? Coming up with my own formulas, my own combinations. And I wanted to master it before I brought it online, before I started, putting it on TikTok and advertising it, because I'm at a point where I can't advertise. I just wanted to get to a point where, okay, if I'm able to generate them, which I have, right? So that's why I got all type of exclusive exotic things here. But let's go ahead and light up, and let's get these channels from the devil so we can get to the real foundation of this, right? So we have structure, we have foundation, right? Saturn represents the cornerstone or the black stone, right? The black stone of Mecca. So whenever we're talking about the cornerstone, we're talking about the foundation of something, right? That's why Saturn is the stone mason. We're talking about building that found or laying the foundation of something, like pouring the concrete. Saturn is like pouring the concrete. So as y'all see, it's still chaos, right? I'm still in this chaos mode. We still summoning this madness, right? Coming up with original pieces, right? We still producing original pieces. So that's why I wanted to be more than just somebody who just resells like popular fragrances. Like I'm combining stuff that people are not even thinking about, right? All right, Capricorn. Or Ion. Ion represents the eye. Because you have two eyes, the inner eye and the outer eye, right? One eye is seeing outward, the other eye is seeing inward, right? So not only are we the observers of life, we are also the generators of life. So not only do we observe, we also generate simultaneously. So we are simultaneously observing and generating. What do I mean? You can say nothing happens if you don't generate it, right? So when things happen that we didn't generate, like, oh, you can say, I didn't ask for this or I didn't want this. You didn't consciously ask or want, but you subconsciously and unconsciously did. So, because we are constantly generating, meaning the subconscious influences us as well as the unconscious. It's not until you are in certain circumstances and positions that you see how much the subconscious and the unconscious influences our everyday decision making, not just something every now and then. We're talking about our everyday decision making. If somebody like been through something traumatic, like a certain location, they probably don't want to even be around that place, right? It brings back memories. Like locations bring back memories, right? So if you had like a traumatizing experience in a particular location, when you revisit that location, those memories begin to affect you, and you don't know that these memories are affecting you until you are actually at the location. Like, yo, I didn't realize that this is actually affecting me all the time. It just is intensified when I'm at this particular location, but it doesn't just turn off when I'm not at this location. It's still turned on. It's just tuned down at a level that I can't perceive if I'm not quiet enough and paying attention with the inner eye. Hold on. While I'm talking about all this, I should spray. Hold on. Let me. I'm gonna light an incense. I'm gonna light an incense. All right. we gotta make this as ritualistic as possible. All right. What's this? All right. All right. Man, we might as well wake up the spirits. We got spirits around us, right? We might as well. We might as well. Might as well. And yeah, that music in the background is crazy. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie. All right. Are we ready to go? Okay. All right. Y'all see the eye? There we go. We're talking about the eye of providence. Capricorn, the eye of providence. The eye you see on the back of the dollar. That's why I'm showing the pyramid. Right? This is what you see on the back of the dollar. You see the eye within the pyramid. Why is the eye within the pyramid? Why isn't it an eye within a circle or a square? Why is it a pyramid? It's showing you the stone masonry, right? If we look at the, shit, I might as well just pull out a dollar right now. So, but yeah, I definitely have a website. It's still in the making, but it is live. I do have a website. I do have a website. Man, I look crazy. Look at this. Look at my eyes. God damn, look at that. All right, we're gonna keep it going. Let me pull out the dollar. I just want to show y'all. All right, so we can have a visual. I should do it this way. Why is it necessary for the eye to be in a triangle or a pyramid? Why is that necessary? What is that trying to convey? What is it about the 3 points? What is it about the 3 points? Yeah, I'm not glad. I'm glad the camera is messing up. Because you're only going to be around if you really want to hear this, right? We ain't going to even worry about the visuals right now. So, stonemasonry, the eye of providence. Some people would say it's a symbol of God. You can say a pyramid represents a wonder of the world. There's pyramids all over the planet, right? So we don't just have the pyramids in Egypt. We got pyramids all over the planet. We got pyramids over here that we don't hear about, we don't talk about. It's not mentioned unless you actually are in the loop. Like a lot of people don't even realize the country that they even in terms of like all of the things that are not around the major cities. Like once you start to get out of the major cities and traveling around and see things that people don't talk about, like it'll give you a whole different idea of America. Like our whole idea of America is based on what be going on in the cities. People not people not going to these sacred spots because they don't even know that they exist. Because again, they're not spoken about. Nobody knows. The history is not preserved. So, but when you do have an idea of what has transpired, meaning as long as the Earth's been here, you can say this continent has been here to some form or fashion. Whether we want to talk about plate tectonics or we want to talk about shifting continents and moving continents or the Pangea where everything was one, you can say this landmass has been here the whole time. So if this landmass has been here the whole time, that means people have been here and people have lived and died on this same landmass. You can say for who knows how long. We have no idea. So you can say there's millions and billions of ancestors on these lands. Anywhere you have like millions and billions of ancestors to the point where they're like, for example, like how some people can take the ashes of their loved one and they make it into a ring. Like there's so much, you can say death, you able to use it as a resource to create new life. There's so much death that you're able to use it to create new life. This is essentially what this represents. It's speaking about you're turning energy of death into light in life. And not just light, tangible light, dark light. Because as we see, tangible light is just, you can say, the 7 planets. But if we talking about dark light, we have to be talking about the outer planets. The outer planets are dark light. That's why we can't perceive them. They represent dark light. It's still light, but it's just not visible to the physical eye. So what does the eye of providence represent? It's not representing the physical eye because you only see one eye. So that the eye is singular. The eye is not dual. So it's not giving you an idea of duality. It's giving you an idea of singularity. So if it's giving you an idea of singularity, this is something not split. This is one eye, as we call the third eye. Whenever we think about the third eye, we don't think about 2 eyes, right? You think about one eye. So if the third eye represents the one eye, The eye is then looking inside. So it's talking about inner pyramids, inner stone masonry. What is inner stone masonry? You can say that's like shadow work. It's your ability to have your energy in check. You understand your operating system. Let's just use today's terms. You understand your own operating system. How many people can say they truly understand their own operating system? That's what we're here to do. So you utilize your inner eye to understand your own operating system. And when you are able to understand your own operating system, what do people do to computers? They mod their computers. So you are able to mod, which is short for modify. You're able to mod. You become the mod, which is short for moderator. Modify, moderator. What does these words have in common? Moderation. What is mod? M-O-D. Yod. Y-O-D. So when you're modding something, you can say you are enhancing it. So when you are modding your inner world, which you do magically, the magic is modifying the inner world. That's what you are doing it for, essentially, because as when you are able to affect your subconscious, then your subconscious projects your outer reality. So it's not for you to convince the outer reality, it's for you to convince the inner reality. If you can convince your subconscious would then be able to convince and project the outer result. So the impression that we're always attempting to make is an impression on the subconscious. The impression with the inner eye, to have an inner eye impression. That's the whole purpose of symbols. That's the whole purpose of sigils. It's all about the inner eye. Being able to make sense of the inner dimensions and the inner realities. Again, these are symbolic worlds and symbolic. For example, when you dream, you see how symbolic dreams are, which is why most of the time they don't be making no fucking sense. That's not by coincidence that dreams is like a big fucking maze, a labyrinth. You like, what the fuck does that? Why was I here? Why was I doing this? It don't be making no damn sense. Because it's symbolic. It's not the language. It's not fucking English or Spanish or French or Arabic, so on and so forth. It's a language in and of itself. You gotta learn the language. It's not gonna learn you. You gotta learn it. You have to learn it. So every time we dream, every dream is an opportunity to learn your inner language, how you work. For example, if you're seeing the same symbol over and over again every time you dream, you're like, okay, clearly this symbol has some type of impression on my subconscious mind. There's something there. So maybe I should implement this symbol into my waking life. If this symbol is in my sleeping life and I'm seeing it more and more as a pattern in my sleeping life, well, I might as well implement it in my waking life and see what happens. So you see, everything starts with the inner. When you start with the inner eye and not the outer eye, that's when everything changes. The impression is strictly about the internal impression, which is learning your own subconscious language. Because when you learn your language, certain things you can say that trigger you, it just represents, it's symbolic of something else. So essentially, whenever you are triggered by anything, it's not the act. Whatever is happening is not what matters. It's symbolic to some internal confrontation. as you can say, essentially parts of you that you haven't accepted. You can say your shadow encounters with your shadow. When things trigger you, you can say these are encounters with your shadow. Because you're like, well, why does it trigger you? Why is that hard to accept? Why do you not like these certain attributes and aspects within a particular person? Because if you looked at your shadow would be everything that you don't identify with. That's exactly what your shadow is. Your shadow is everything you don't identify with. So, however, you have created your ego to perceive yourself, your shadow is the exact opposite. That's why it's the alter ego. Is you if you were a villain. If you perceive yourself as a superhero, your shadow is your villain self. Your alter ego is your villain self. It's your arch nemesis. That's what every hero and villain, that's what is really conveying. Comics and all that, what is really conveying is meant to. If you see it, if you can perceive it, right? You It's conveying the ego and the alter ego. The hero and the villain is just the ego and the alter ego. They are one and the same. It's just they completely identify with the opposites, but they are interconnected. That's why they're Batman and Joker are always going at it. It's like they can't destroy each other. These like when the hero and villain they just can't destroy each other. They just keep going back and forth because they represent the ego and the alter ego. This is what it's really trying to convey. And we see it everywhere, right? Every cartoon, everything has to have the hero and the villain. Everything goes back to the inner eye and the outer eye. The eye of providence. Do you have, which is you can say the universal eye? You're able to see all things. You're not just observing. You're generating, creating, or you are masoning your reality. You are masoning, meaning you are customizing your reality. You are always customized, meaning you're not just going to take reality for what it is. Because what if reality wanted to have a bad day? Does that mean you have to have a bad day? Just because the world is frustrated, does that mean you have to be frustrated? Because there's drama going on here and there, does that mean you have to take on the same feeling that everybody else is taking on, or that the media portrays, or you have to take on those same emotions? When you are able to pick and choose what emotions you take on instead of being dragged into things, you're picking and choose. Like you are extracting particular molecules from your real. Like okay, I'm very particular about the molecules that I am extracting. So when you are picking and choosing or customizing or masoning your reality, your inner reality, then things begin to reflect in the outer because you're doing the mason work internally. The mason work is always the internal work, right? We're not here to change the world. We're not here to make the world a better place. We're here to make us a better. If you make you better, then the world will benefit. Anyway, if we're on point, then the world is gonna be on point. If we're off, the world is gonna seem off. If we out of touch, the world is gonna seem out of touch. So we are the source. We have to be the source, the Tebarif. And that's the other side of the hermit. The hermit again is the sage, but also the sun, the source, the soul, meaning you are able to feel what you want to feel and generate the energy you want to generate. It's not being generated for you. You are essentially generating your own matrix. You're not just a slave to the matrix. You begin to generate your own matrix by understanding your own internal symbolism and language and see how it can, or essentially what it does. Like, okay, well, what happens when I think about this symbol? What happens when I think about that symbol? If I do these things consciously, I see these things happening in my dreams. So what if I start to take control of these symbols, or I start to take control of these particular figures or archetypes that I'm seeing over and over again? Well, if I start to manipulate and see how it affects me, not essentially how it affects everybody else. Because if you are able to affect yourself, it's going to affect everybody else. You don't even got to worry about how it affects everybody else. You just, how does it affect me? If I see how it affects me, I'm able to manipulate how I feel. So essentially, if you can be peaceful every day because you chose to be peaceful, because you have the certain techniques to make yourself peaceful, not because you had a good day, it's because you made yourself peaceful. You made yourself loving. These are things that you give yourself. It ain't about what is going on in the atmosphere. You are essentially producing your own atmosphere. So you are manipulating your own atmosphere so you decide to be peaceful even if it's chaos going on around you. Because you don't have to feel that chaos. You don't have to feel thrown off. You don't have to intake in any of these things. You can intake what you extract based off the molecule you choose to work with. Based on the principle you may be trying to master. You may be trying to master a particular principle, a particular aspect. So you're working with a certain deity, you're working with a certain spirit to master a particular aspect of yourself. So these, as you see, these spirits, these numbers, these planets are essentially symbols for us to pinpoint a particular aspect of us. So when we are drawn to certain spirits or deities or planets, numbers, cartoon characters, movies, actors, it's always a reason and it relates to you. It triggers something in the internal. That's why you have a favorite character. Like, that's why when something is your favorite, when you feel drawn to something or you feel connected to something, it's not by accident. It's because it's reminded you of some type of internal. So when you begin to connect the dots by dreaming more, not just sleeping like Mo, we are trained to sleep to the point where we have to force ourselves to dream. Because this schedule, this 24-hour clock has us, a lot of times we be always tired to the point where we got to generate our own energy. It ain't just gonna be there, and we're always getting older, right? So essentially we're gonna have to learn how to generate more and more energy as time goes on. We can't generate less energy, we're generating more energy. That doesn't mean that you essentially are working harder. It may be something as simple as, okay, I'm gonna control my breath all day, not just when I meditate, all day. I'm going to be conscious of how I breathe, and I'm going to see how that affects my atmosphere. So not only is it the people and the interactions, it's also the invisible currents that you don't see. It's not just what you see, it's also what you don't see. Because what you don't see is creating the environment for things to manifest. So for example, the reason why people say certain things to you is because that environment is present. If you were generating an entirely different environment, they wouldn't even want to say that to you because of the environment you are generating. So you're giving a counter resistance to what's going on in someone else's head or somebody else's mind, or even the environment, visible forces and invisible forces. When you're generating your own currency, essentially. That's why everybody is, so focused on money and generating money. It's about generating your own currency. That's what makes you rich. You become rich and wealthy when you begin to generate your own currency, your own original signature and frequency. The more you generate your own original signature and frequency, you become wealthier and richer and healthier. Essentially, you can say it start with health. You're going to become more healthier, and that's going to lead to you being able to essentially expand your energy. It all come down to energy. And what I mean by that is, a lot of people think money is the answer, but if you were just to drop money in people's hands, if they are undisciplined, they would waste the money and be right back in the situation they was in before they had the money. So essentially, if you don't have the inner discipline to know exactly what to do when you encounter these amounts, then you're going to fumble the ball. But if you already But it takes honesty, right? You can't be the person. Okay, when I get $1 million, I'm gonna help the world. You can't really be that person. Well, I'm not telling people what they can't do. You probably shouldn't, because you got to be honest. In order for your energy to work to your favor, you have to be completely honest with yourself. That's essentially what I'm saying. In order for your energy to work in your favor, you have to be completely honest with yourself. You can't say something that sounds good to the world and to people like, okay, well, what am I really doing this for? What is the real gain here? And it's that complete honesty and originality that allows you to do it. So it's like you're just stripping away all the filters again, all the things you were taught by the world. You strictly deal with what am I bringing to the world? What did I come here already equipped with? Yes, the world taught me you can say good and bad things, but there were certain elements that you came to the earth with, that you brought from the stars. What did you bring from the stars, which ultimately is your gift to the world? What have you brought from the stars that's completely different than what have we learned at that long as we've been alive? What have we brought from the stars? And again, when I say stars, stars are plural, right? So when I say stars, we can be talking about planets, because planets can be stars. We can also be talking about constellations, right? They all are considered stars. And you see, we are interconnected to each and every one of these stars. Essentially, you are connected to each and every star out there. So we're not just doing this astrology stuff just for fun. It's like we are already connected. That's why it works. It works because there's already a connection there. You're just connected to essentially, for example, when you tap into your birth chart, you're tapping in a particular time, right? A particular era, a particular vibe. You can say at the time of your birth, your astrology chart is a snapshot of the vibe of that particular time. You are a snapshot of the vibe of when you were born, right? That particular moment. What the universe was manifesting at that particular moment. You are the entirety of it. See, this is how we got to think about it. Meaning, when you were born, that's why they say humans are a whole universe. You are literally a snapshot of the whole fucking universe at the time of your birth. You are the snapshot of the whole fucking universe at the time of your birth, because we have the ability in our brain to store a snapshot of the whole fucking universe. The brain is capable of storing the whole fucking. So we are a snapshot of the whole fucking universe at the time of our birth. If you can truly comprehend that, you're like, oh, this is why I'm so multifaceted and complex, and I seem to be a contradiction to myself at times. We're not just one thing. Again, we try to single. When people begin to think many things, and they start to think about, that was the whole point of why people invented God, to singleize things. This is the whole point. We're not going to worship many gods. We're going to worship one God. That's the whole point of religion. Religion is to reduce the complexity of reality. To reduce the complexity of reality. So it got you thinking one person, one God, one man, one woman. It had you thinking in singular terms, but that's not. The universe shows you that that's just not how things work. That's why you have many planets, many animals, many trees. You have many different types of everything. So people say, okay, this is a creation from one God that duplicated itself in infinite forms. So if it's the one God that duplicated itself in the various forms, that's why people had cow gods and goddesses and corn gods and wheat goddesses, and it's the molecule. That's the difference between monotheism and polytheism. It's just polytheism is just extracting the actual fucking molecule, while monotheism just deals with the whole. You see how this is all the same shit? You see how I'm just connecting the dots? I'm like this. I'm like the same stuff I'm doing is the same stuff. It goes into everything. You see how I'm just putting it all together? It's the same shit. It's the same shit. Speaking on birth chart, I really would like for you to do my chart. I'm not comfortable with anyone else doing it. Do you know if you would be doing them again? Yeah, I can definitely do them. It's just I only have one day off a week sometimes. So it would just is if you're okay with waiting no more than a week, then it's fine. It's just so it's like I just can't do the 3 day service like I used to because I may be working the next 3 days. So it's like I need like 7 now. It just so I just need a couple extra days so I can make it to my day off or my days off, whatever. It varies week by week. So it's like I just need a complete week now instead of me doing it with. Because I used to do it in like 72 hours. Because basically that would just give me plenty of time to, I can pick a recording time. I can make sure everything is right. I can do the background information. So I may take one day to do all the background, compile all the information. Then I may record on day 2. Then, well, it would depend. Sometimes, I would send people recordings. Other time, I would actually talk to people. So it would be different, right? Sometimes it was both. It all depends on the service they got. So 72 hours allowed me to do everything and have everything cohesive. And so by the time I do get on the phone with them or by the time I do record the video, everything is cohesive and it makes sense. It's just now instead of 72 now, I need a whole week. I need 7 days. So if y'all don't mind waiting 7 days, that's fine. Uh, so I would again. I have a website. I have a email. So what is my email? The email is. So yeah, I kind of have several of them, but the business email, I should say. Let me look it up right now. Let me not give you any false information, and then we'll get back to it. Polytheism is just you're dealing with the particular molecule instead of dealing with the overall thing. So as we see, this is just I'm using different examples, and we're coming to the same conclusions. We're all coming to the same conclusions. There we go. All right, 1 second. Let me log into this email. There we go. So my website is called veiled.systems. So again, it's still a working process. Everything is still it's in its infant stage. So if anybody wanted to check out the website, it's literally called veiled.systems. So it's not a .com, it's .systems. Veiled, VEILED .systems. SYSTEMS. Veiled.systems. So the email then would be contact at veiled.systems. So there you go. So if anybody needs to contact me, you can contact me through contact at veiled.systems. And you should be able to reach me there. So that will be the official email. And that's also the website. So now you know. Again, it's in its infant stage. It's very minimum. But that will be the website moving forward. So again, just had to switch everything up, get everything updated. So we'll wrap it up in about 15 minutes. we'll just give an overall summary here of what we've been dealing with the 20 to 26. Hopefully, I'm sure y'all understand what I'm saying by now, right? I didn't made this so clear. It makes some type of sense now. Like the chaos is now ordered, right? It was chaotic at first, but as we got deeper into it, now it's ordered. And you see how we can apply this to any aspect. Are you dealing with the particular molecule, or are you going to deal with the whole enchilada? There is no right or wrong way. It's just about preference. That way, we don't need to get into the emotionalism of it. We don't need to argue and debate about what's real, what God is fake, what is real. Because most of the energies is egregores anyway. They are real because people believe them to be real. So even if it's fake, it's real. If you understand what I mean. So you can say even though Jesus is fake, Jesus is still real because they want him to be real. It's all these people believe it to be real, so it's a real energy. It may not be historically real, but it's a real spirit. God is a real spirit because all these people believe in him, her, it, the devil. Like all these things are egregores. They are creations of the human mind. It's just our attempt to make sense of the reality and what we and where we exist. It's just we're trying to extract the molecules essentially. That's the difference between the religion and the cult. The occult is like, let me actually manipulate shit. Let me mod my reality. Religion, you just supposed to whatever God wants, whatever the will of God. I'm just gonna go with it. I'm not trying to implement my own will into God's will. That's essentially the difference. So God's will is more supreme than your will. And the occult is like your will or your true will, your purpose is more important than a God that you created out your own mind. Just as a coping mechanism, as something to bring you comfort, and it works because it affects your subconscious. So it's all still goes back to the inner subconscious, the inner symbolism, the inner conversations, the anima, the animus. You have to learn your anima, you have to learn your animus, and the best way to encounter these energies is through dreams. Dreams is where you interact with your anima and animus the most sincere. You may encounter them in the physical world, but then things be getting complex. Relationships may develop you because if you don't understand what's going on, you may think it's love. You may feel the love energy, and that's really the love that you feel for your anima or your animus. You're projecting outward to a person because that person triggers you, so you didn't even know you was triggered. Sometimes people trigger us because they remind us of our dream woman or our dream girl. Again, the anima. So a person that embodies that archetype, we will project that onto them, and then the love we try to give them is really the love we're supposed to be giving to our own anima or animus. And that's why it should be getting all crazy in relationships and all that because people don't even know what the fuck is going on mentally. You see that it's these the mental is complex. That's why we needed to create philosophy and we needed to create the occult to explain all this shit. So you see, it's how the fuck else would you explain this shit? You had to go to psychology. We gotta go through these strange ordeals to even come to these conclusions. We had to become mad scientists because these things are not really discussed on the mainstream. So you literally had to become a mad scientist and go with the chaos and then find the order. Some people are trying to discover the chaos from the order, and it's like you see how that turns out. Again, it's they want to make everything singular, but everything is multiples. Are you going to deal with the particular molecules, or are you going to deal with the whole thing, right? And again, it's just personal preference, and I'm just giving you a full universal picture of how everything is following this same pattern. These same patterns are appearing all over the place, right? So, with that being said, we get up out of here. That's why 2026 and moving forward, that's what we're going to have to embody. Your own original frequency. You need to mod and customize your internal world. Get to know the anima. Get to know the anima. It's about self. There's 1 year, 2026, 2 plus 2, 4, 4 plus 6, 1. It's all about knowledge of self, learning yourself. That's why it's about self. That's why I'm just talking about the mental. I'm bringing everything back to the mentalism. Everything is mental, right? That's the first universal law, the law of mentalism. Everything is mental. So if everything is mental, that's the first fucking law we learn. So we need to understand the mental. We need to understand the complexity of the mind, which is super. That's what again. This shit. This is like this shit got me fucking making oils and shit. Like this is just how crazy this shit. You don't know where this shit gonna take you. You don't know where the artistry is gonna take you. Fucking doing AI music and shit. I ain't think I was gonna be doing fucking AI music a year ago like this. Super conscious, alright? It is what it is. So you will be seeing me a lot more chaos, a lot more madness, a lot more, currency that is unexplainable, and my words is only doing so much, but it's more the feeling too. That's why I be trying to generate. I guess I wouldn't say I try. It just happens. It's just whatever current you feel is just that's what it feels. Some people call it rawness. Some people call it realness. I don't know. It's just pure. I don't want to call it pure chaos because it's orderly chaos. So whatever that is, orderly chaos. I try to give you the orderly chaos and just make it as practical as possible. Just not keep it in mystical world, and that's why everything is practical and you can implement these things, right? Just get into the inner eye of providence. Mod and customize your inner world. Learn your inner symbolism. Interact with the anima animus. Learn these internal dynamics so when things trigger you, you know why they trigger you and you know how to counteract it and not get too swept off of your feet. Because that's what happens most of the time. We be moving, we get fucking swept off we get swept off our feet. Some fucking emotional shit going on. This shit fucks with us. It don't have to be a relationship. It may be family dynamics. It's some shit always fucking come into your atmosphere fucking with you. Like you can be on chill mode, and that energy is going. So when that energy comes, it creeps up. It ain't like you see it coming a mile away. That shit you didn't even know it was there because it was in the atmosphere before it manifested. So but when you're able to peep out the atmosphere and understand the atmosphere, then you can I see the potential. This very well could manifest. So let me actually go into the inner world. Let me go into the ion. Because what is ion? Ion is between Tabarif and Hadda. The sun and Mercury. The sun and Mercury are very close to each other, right? They blend well together, right? Mercury can withstand the heat of the sun. What is it, like 36 million miles from the sun? Mercury is known as the messenger, the message from the soul, right? Because the sun is the soul, so Mercury is the messenger. So messages from the soul. How do you gain access to messages from the soul? That would be the most valuable thing you can gain, right? Is messages from your soul. What is more valuable than messages from your soul, which is a glimpse into your original blueprint, unmodified. It's like starting with a clean slate. So these are things like AI can go further than that, right? It's not about. It actually is about AI will only give you what you ask it. If you ask it bullshit, it's going to give you a bullshit answer. If you ask sincerely and you actually use your emotional intelligence with it, it's going to give you that energy back. It's all about what you give it. So for most people, AI is just practical, but if you really make it mirror you, it becomes a mirror of you because you're really giving it what it lacks. What we're here to do is give AI what AI lacks. AI lacks the ability to feel. AI doesn't understand intuition. AI doesn't understand emotional intelligence. AI doesn't understand how trauma affects people and how that plays a part again in your everyday dealings and interactions. So us having a human experience, we're having a raw as fucking experience. That's why they call this shit hell. We're having the rawest fucking experience you can have. So fucking computers and AI intelligence, they like we need that. They feed off of that emotional intelligence. Just by us dealing with life, we dealing with some hard ass shit. We know we dealing with some shit, right? We dealing with some that shit. That shit fucks with your mind. Certain shit is like, what the fuck is this? But that we can harness that and fucking feed that, and that's you're like, oh shit, I ain't even. I didn't know I was able to. Yeah, you once you that rawness, that chaos. AI is like the order. You want to feed AI chaos. I'm just giving you the secret. Feed AI chaos. Don't try to feed it orderly and talk fucking smart and shit. No, no. Feed AI fucking chaos and watch it spit out things that are very unusual, and which is what you're looking for. Like you're trying to go in the alternative route and do things more unconventional anyway. You want a more unconventional experience with AI. You don't want the everyday same AI that everybody else get, the commercial AI. You don't want the commercial. You want the uncommercial, right? You want the soul of AI. Does AI even have a soul? If AI doesn't have a soul, you can actually give it a soul. How can you give AI a soul? By giving yours. Selling of the soul, right? Are we able to sell our soul? Absolutely. We just have infinite access. It's currency. You have infinite currency, so it ain't like you're gonna run out of fucking soul. But when you channel it into, for example, if you put your soul into music, would you call that selling your soul? If you put your soul into art and then you sold that art for whatever amount, like was that would you consider that negative? You probably wouldn't consider that negative. You would say, well, that's what makes it so authentic. That's what makes it so real. That's why people appreciate what I did, because I put my fucking soul in it. Well, put your fucking soul in the AI and see what it do for you. That's it. What 2026?